Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. We are wrapping up the early rookie rankings, and this time we've got the most valuable position for your fantasy drafts. Just kidding, it's the tight end position. So we're going to make this one quick. One, because tight ends suck, and two, because there's really not that many of them in this year's draft class. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. You can find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin. My co-host, Dale, is back as well. Find him on Twitter at Dynasty_Dale. If you got any questions for these rankings, let us know. Had a lot of fun so far, Dale, with all the quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, but yeah, this is where it's kind of bland, you know? It's just...
Extremely, unfortunately. Yeah. It's definitely gonna be rough sledding today.
Yeah, but we'll go pretty quick. So, just so you guys are aware, we're going to be wrapping this up. This will be the last of the early rookie rankings, and we're going to do an overall ranking. So that's what we're going to give our top 24 guys for Superflex. We're going to give our top 24 guys for one quarterback leagues, and we're going to kind of, it's kind of tough because tight end premium does really change rankings a lot. Like, I know it sounds so small, but like, it all depends on your tight end premium value too. 1.5 ranking isn't going to change this too much. 2 kind of makes some of these lower tier guys, maybe moves them up a little bit in the top 24. So it does change it a decent amount depending on that. So we're going to exclude tight end premium for the most part. Maybe we'll talk about it, during those rankings where we'll have those guys as we're going through it. But yeah, it's tough to value tight ends, especially rookie tight ends, highly unless it is tight end premium. So that's going to be coming right after we wrap this up. And then after that, Dale and I are going to talk. We're going to get into some more content. We got plenty to talk about. By the time this is all done, I think it'll be like Super Bowl week by the time this all gets wrapped up. So it's going to be the off season soon, and there's going to be a ton to talk about. So Dale, you ready to get into this?
I can't wait.
All right. So anything else you want to add before we jump into it? Any thoughts? How's your week going?
Oh, it's going pretty good. It's gone pretty fast with the holiday. So I'm excited for the weekend, and I'm excited to get into this.
Yeah. I don't get Martin Luther King Day off. I've never gotten it off ever. So I always forget that it's an actual holiday.
Yeah. It is, and and then for every year, like I have to do a training on that day, so never any.
There you go. But all right. So first tight end we're going to talk about here is probably no surprise if you've listened to any other podcasts. It's kind of a uniform guy here. The one thing I want to talk about on this guy though, and the prospect is Michael Mayer with Notre Dame. 6'4", 250 pounds. He's a big boy. But he's got really good hands. Measurables are going to be there. The traits are going to be there. He passes all the film scores. So he's kind of the universal tight end one for this draft class. And the one thing I wanted to talk about, everyone was super high on Kyle Pitts 2 years ago. And everyone that was super high on Kyle Pitts said, well, if you love this guy, just wait 2 more years and we got Michael Mayer coming out and he's the next guy. And, he has not gotten nearly as much potential. So instead of, breaking down Michael Mayer and why he's the unquestioned number one, I mean, you look at his stats throughout his whole college career, 180 catches for 2,100 yards, 18 touchdowns. I mean, that's better than some of the wide receivers, like half the wide receivers we talked about. Like, the dude is just a weapon. He's a good blocker. He's very effective in the blocking as well. So instead of kind of talking about why he's better, so much better than all the other guys, because he just is, you watch him on film, he has amazing hands. He's pretty quick. He's not the fastest. He's a tight end, right? But he's pretty good at route running. He's good at power. He reminds me a lot of like George Kittle is who he kind of reminds me of a little bit. But what I wanted to talk about with him is him versus someone like Kyle Pitts. So Kyle Pitts, everybody out there has been a little disappointed by him so far through a couple years in his career. But he's still kind of the unquestioned tight end one in dynasty startups. And, it's him or Mark Andrews. So he's top 2 typically. And like I said, a couple years ago when Kyle Pitts was coming out, there was a lot of talk about him. Well, if you really love him, Michael Mayer's coming. He's the murderer from Halloween. He's coming slowly and
Right.
surely. But what are your thoughts on him versus someone like Kyle Pitts? Like if they were both in this draft class, knowing if you go back to when Kyle Pitts was just a prospect, right? How would you rank the
Hmm.
difference between these two guys? What would your thoughts be on those two?
Well, I mean, I would obviously have them in different tiers.
Would
Kyle
you?
Pitts is a physical. I really would. I
Okay.
feel Kyle Pitts is a unicorn
Okay.
in that him just being a physical. He's able to do a little bit of everything. I know Mayer is too, but I think with Kyle Pitts's his just his height,
Hmm.
his vert, and
His
his
speed,
wingspan,
4'4".
yeah, his speed,
Yep.
yeah, everything in between. I think he would be. I think it's a closer tier, but I think they would be a tier different because
Mm.
of the physical abilities that Pitts possesses compared to what Mayer possesses.
That's fair. And that's where, the same draft class as Kyle Pitts, you got someone like Pat Fryermuth. Pat Fryermuth has been pretty
Mhm.
good in the NFL. You got
Yeah,
to, he had washed Ben Roethlisberger, and then he has
yeah.
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny
And it's,
Pickett. Yeah,
it's not the greatest
yeah.
situation for him right now. But, one thing I was looking at for Michael Mayer is what if Detroit Lions take him at 18, I think is what their second
Or
pick,
yeah,
or 16 or
yeah,
whatever it is, you know,
yeah.
replace TJ Hawkinson with him. It would be very interesting. And he
That would
reminds
be
me a lot of
amazing, actually.
of Pat Fryermuth, who would have been the
Mhm.
tight end one if it hadn't been for Kyle Pitts. But I kind of see him as an upgrade. I think I see Michael Mayer as an upgrade over Pat Fryermuth. Maybe not to the same extent of ability because, like you said, Kyle Pitts is a unicorn, right? Nobody has
Yes.
the measurables that he has. Like he is so fast and he is so big and he's so light
Yes.
still. Like I think he's like
Yes.
260 pounds, 255 pounds, something like that.
Right.
Ran a 4.4, and he is the leanest
Nuts.
guy you've ever seen. Like he looks like a wide receiver in a tight end's body. It's crazy just watching him, right? So he's a unicorn. But Michael Mayer, I think, he's so good with the ball. He is a
Nuts.
traditional tight end. He's not. Yeah, Baby Gronk has to be the most overused comparison of
Yeah,
all
it
time, right?
is.
But
It is.
he really reminds me of like a Kittle, who's an amazing blocker. He will destroy you in the blocking game, but you get him open down
Mhm.
the field and he will bust off a massive run. And same
Yes.
with Michael Mayer. I think that's a very good comp for him, is someone more similar to a George Kittle, right? And
Yeah.
that is amazing for fantasy in a starved class where, or a
Mhm.
starved position where talent is tough. 2 years ago George Kittle was a top 2 dynasty tight end. Now he's barely getting top 5. I got him in the 6th round of a startup as the 5th or 6th guy. It's like still good. Like he's still really good. He
Mhm.
finishes the tight end for point 0.5 points behind Mark Andrews this last year. Everyone's forgotten about George Kittle. But, you know, I think that the fact that everyone has forgotten about him just tells you how volatile. You just want the top 3 guys. And once we get to a bench where you have like maybe 9, 10, 11 guys that are all fantasy relevant, which shouldn't be that hard, you would think. But once we get to that point, that's where it gets a little bit more interesting. And I think Michael Mayer, probably not as a rookie, is going to jump out and contribute right away in year one, unless he goes somewhere where they're going to feature him even more than like
Mhm.
Kyle Pitts. But if you go back to Kyle Pitts' his rookie year, it was not a bad rookie year for a tight end. He just didn't get the touchdowns, right? He only had 1 touchdown or 0 touchdowns that year. Where you look at someone the same
Yeah.
year, Pat Fryermuth, I think he had like 8 or 9 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you kind of merge those two together. Michael Mayer could be very good in year one. What are your thoughts on him
No,
for?
I completely agree with that. I think he is. I think he comps similar to Freiermuth, like what you were saying, in that they both are still physical freaks, at the position. I mean, obviously they are no Kyle Pitts, which which nobody's gonna compare to that. But I feel he has very good physical traits. I kind of think of him maybe as like a Mark Andrews, which is kind of similar to like Kittle comparison. They're able to block. They have soft hands. Um, and they're a quarterback's best friend, which
Right.
is going to be very important because I mean he may not go to the best of teams if he goes in the in the mid first round. So like he may go to like the Lions with Jared Goff,
It's not so bad,
playing.
but
Yeah, which honestly isn't so bad. So I think he's going to. I can see him putting up more Freiermuth number in his first year, kind of having more touchdowns.
then yards.
You know, yeah, than yards. I mean, I still think I still think he can put 600-700 yards up, which is
Mm.
still a really good year. You know,
Yeah, we will
for like
see.
it's for a tight end, but obviously for that position you have to get the touchdowns to really offset the lack of yards.
Right. So Michael Mayer, everyone's expecting him to be a first round pick for the actual NFL, mid first, wherever that ends up being.
Yes.
So in a non tight end premium, where do you think he's worth in a rookie draft? Because that's one of the bigger things. You don't get talent like this.
So,
And I mean, I took Kyle Pitts pretty highly in a non tight end premium draft class. I'm still waiting for that to kind of pay off. I took him over Jamar Chase a couple years ago. Thought I could handle that that loss of
yeah,
talent, but it's
yeah,
been disappointing through a couple years. But
it
if
has.
Kyle Pitts starts to look like a Travis Kelsey, it's going to look like a steal, right? So because the position is so void of talent, right? So if in a non tight end premium, where do you think he's worth in a rookie draft?
I would probably take him mid late first round. I would
Mm,
say I would definitely say I wouldn't take him any higher than maybe 7 would maybe be the highest. But that depends how tight and needy you are.
right.
I think he would be more set at like 9, 10, 11. I would feel more comfortable in that range.
All right. So that's pretty much all we got. He's the definite, by far,
Mm,
tight end one in this draft class. And the guy that is number two, I like a lot. We're going to jump to him in just 1 minute. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with episode number 2 here, tier two. But the guy I like in tier two, that's just how good Michael Mayer is. It's a sizable gap between those two. And I really like number two here. So we'll be right back. We're going to talk about him in just 1 minute. Thank you guys for joining. Before you leave, make sure you like, comment, subscribe on the video if you can. Leave a thumbs up, whatever it is. Just help us out. We appreciate it. We're going to be bringing content all off season, and a little bit of love every now and then doesn't hurt. So drop us some. And again, you can find us on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, at Dynasty_Dale. You can ask us any questions you got, any trade questions. I'm going to be gearing up for some trades. I'm going to start looking through offers in a bunch of leagues because now we're rolled over in all of them. So I'm excited there. But yeah, I'm going to be looking at it all offseason. There is no offseason in Dynasty. So thank you guys for joining us for this one. We'll be right back with episode number 2.